Hey, this is Chad with Drawn and Cornered. It is September 8th, 2021, and here's the news for the day. So far, we have had a few issues with Afghanistan, and ultimately, let me lead into the news with some of the issues that I have found and have come across. At this point, Joe Biden has said that he would have done Afghanistan even if Trump hadn't started it. He wanted to get out a long time ago. This is something that he would have done no matter where Trump had been. He also said that no matter what the advisors had said, he was going to proceed forward, even though they all agreed with him, because he wanted to get this done. He made that very clear that this was something that was going to be done no matter what. But also that there were no mistakes made during the course of doing this, that he doesn't regret it, he would continue forward. And this is the issue. So back in April and May, his advisors were telling him this is not going to work. We've got issues with the government there. We've got issues with the military there. Full pullout with all the military gone is going to leave us into a bunch of chaos, a bunch of problems. We got Taliban and Al Qaeda looking to come back in. This is going to be bad. Joe Biden proceeds forward all the way through to July. In July, we know that problems were existing. The Taliban was taking over areas. The Afghan military was crumbling away. The government was crumbling away. All these problems, so much so, and we have an actual recorded phone call from the president to the president of Afghanistan saying, "Hey, whether it's true or not, we need to make this look a lot better than it does right now." So he's asking the Afghan president to lie about what's going on there. So we know that Joe Biden knows it's not going right, but he doesn't change anything. He doesn't extend the date. He doesn't take advantage of the Taliban's offer to allow American security forces to hold Kabul while everybody gets out. He doesn't do that. He defers to the Taliban for protection, continues to pull out further. It goes into just utter disarray, huge problems. People can't get out, Americans stranded, SIV holders stranded, allies stranded, and never changes anything. Legitimately, I get that it was always going to be problems. There was always going to be issues with pulling out in this fashion. The problem is that once you realize what those issues are and once you see those problems come, you adjust, you change things, you do things differently. Joe Biden does nothing differently. And because of that, we have at this moment 10 airplanes sitting at the Kabul airport that aren't being allowed to leave. Now, there's a little bit of conjecture about why they're not being allowed to leave. Initially, the reports were that the State Department wouldn't allow them to leave because they couldn't land anywhere. They didn't have a landing site for them, so they wouldn't let them take off. Now, if it was me, and I knew that we had people that were at risk on those runways, including Americans, take off. We'll figure it out while you're in the air. We'll find a place for you to go. Just get out of there as quickly as possible. You could land almost anywhere else and be in a better situation than if you stay there. That took too long. Taliban takes over those planes, or at least stops those planes from being able to leave in whatever capacity they have. But again, we don't know exactly what that capacity is because we don't have people on the ground that can find out that intel, that can tell us what's actually going on. Same thing, we don't know how many Americans are there because, again, we don't have guys on the ground being able to find out exactly what's going on, to know the real world events that are going on the ground because everybody's gone. This is why this has been done improperly, poorly. There's a ton of different circumstances all along the way where a different decision could have been made that put us in a better spot to be able to make sure that our people, our allies, our SIV holders were taken out of there, that all of our gear wasn't left there. 78,000 trucks, 50,000 of them armored. That's an invasion force. That will provide the Taliban the capability to hold this country for years. And it's all stuff that we left there improperly. And yes, the argument is made that, well, we thought the army was going to take it, the Afghan army was going to. Fine. If you see problems all the way back in May and April with that philosophy, then you change things. You say, oh, well, they don't seem to be holding all that well. Maybe we want to start extricating some of this gear. Maybe we want to start destroying some of this gear. This shouldn't be staying here as we notice things are changing from our original plan. It's legitimately the worst way you could possibly execute a bad plan. And anybody would tell you that. If you do happen to have a plan in place and it doesn't end up being the right one, then you change it as quickly as possible. You move things and you adjust. And the agility necessary to do that is just not in Joe Biden's vocabulary, which again shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. This is the guy who opposed the raid for bin Laden. This is the guy that just across the board, every foreign policy failure that you could possibly have as a senator for 50 years, Joe Biden's had it. He's been wrong on everything, always. It's like like clockwork. He's just always wrong, and that is why it's so enraging to know that all along the way, things could have been different. Things could have been adjusted. We even had the opportunity from our enemy, our partner, to do things differently. They knew we should be doing things differently, and we still deferred back to them. And that's just, it's annoying and depressing to have somebody who just cannot help but trip over himself. And then on top of that, like, fine, errors are made, things go bad, you didn't adjust, but then to also think that what you've done is a good thing, what you've done is the right thing, to somehow pat yourself on the back for this unbelievable bungling of a withdrawal is infuriating. And to do that while your failures are still present, while there are still people over there, like, fine, once we get everybody out and everything finally goes the right way, we finally get all those planes off the runways, we finally get all of our allies out and everything, we are officially done the right thing, then there'll be quibbles over whether or not you can congratulate yourself because we should have gotten out. And although the withdrawal was awful and just horribly managed, we managed to figure it out. We got it done. Fine. Then start congratulating yourself. But right now, that's just craziness. And leads me to believe that he's disconnected from the reality that is all around him. And he doesn't have people there that are willing to tell him that he's disconnected. And I remember this is one of the things that they complained about with Donald Trump, is that he's too insulated. All he's got is his family around him who are all saying, hey, great job, Don, great job. And anybody who had any pushback in his administration was immediately bounced. He had a bunch of yes men around him. Fine, great. That's probably a really bad thing for a president to have. But when your guy starts doing it also, let's key in on it a little bit, because this was terrible. And the worst thing is, I think he's got people around him that were saying the right thing. He just chooses to completely disregard it because he wants the political win of saying, I got us out of Afghanistan. He thinks on September 11th, he's going to be able to celebrate some sort of achievement. And he can't, because there'll still be Americans in Afghanistan at that time. This leads us over to the economic side. The economy is also going terribly. We were supposed to be adding 700,000 jobs last month, ended up only adding 200,000. There was almost zero growth in the restaurant sector. The entertainment sector is struggling. Just all sorts of different areas that would be fine if this country opened up broadly are struggling. And we're disincentivizing work with enormous payouts to people who aren't working. This whole thing is a mess. And again, it's what happens when you take government as God, when you take government as the head of the household, when you take government as the almighty protector of all things. Instead, I would prefer, and I think a lot of other people would, whether they believe it or not, would prefer freedom, the opportunity to make your own decisions, the opportunity to make your own way. Yes, some people are going to fail in that system. Some people are going to falter. And for those people, we may even be able to help. But what we can't do is assume that government always has you. Government is always going to protect you. Government is always going to be there for you. That's a problematic mentality, because it leads to a weaker, less robust, less resilient populace that always assumes that they'll be taken care of, they'll be coddled, and it teaches weakness. It emboldens weakness in those people. And I don't think that is the type of society we are looking for. I don't think it's the type of society we want. We need to get back out there. We need to start being able to take care of ourselves. And even if you continue with a government like that, push that down. Instead of having it at the federal government, which seems to be the way that everybody's leaning, push that down to state government, push that down to localities, townships, villages, school boards. All of that should be going to the lowest authority possible. And if possible, all the way down to the individual. Let them take care of that. And I find that we will have a much better society if we go that route. Thank you very much for watching. If you think I'm crazy, if you think I'm off, if you think I'm right, leave a comment down below. If you like this sort of news and analysis type of tidbit in the morning, subscribe to the channel. We'll be doing updates every weekday. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.